all so much for being here today. So this presentation is on enhancing student success through RTI. So I'm here, we're going to talk about it, we're going to talk about some literature that I reviewed and some strategies that we are using and maybe some more that we can use, and then to see what kind of growth our students made throughout the project. So just a few demographics here. We're obviously a part of Bourbon County, and the population fluctuates at about 150 students. We're 18% white Caucasian and 17% Hispanic, which has risen over the last couple of years. 74% of our students are on free and reduced lunch, which seems really high to me. We have grades K through 5, 11 teachers, 7 classroom teachers. We are a Title I school. We have one-to-one technology, and we are one of 3 elementary schools here in Bourbon County, us being the smallest. So just a little background information. And then our committee members, the principal, Ms. Graves, our reading recovery teacher, Ms. Tiffany Adams, our 21st century coordinator, Ms. Beverly Craycraft, and one of the intervention teachers, Ms. Lydia Austin, and then myself. All right, so my problem statement here for today was, according to our MAP and F&P scores, more and more students are leaving second grade and entering third grade reading below grade level. And I believe this is important because when students go to fourth grade, they no longer learn how to read, they're learning how to apply strategies when they read. So if they can't read the text, then that teacher cannot progress with the standards that they need in order to be successful in the fourth grade. So the big question is, how do we get these kids reading on grade level by the end of second grade so that by the end of third grade, they are ready to progress to fourth grade? So the essential question here is, how can we enhance the reading instruction in grades K through 2 in order for students to exit primary grades reading on grade level? And then the second question was, how do the RTI strategies help students catch up to grade level? Are they catching up to grade level? And if they're not, what can we do to make this happen, to make the students more successful? So throughout my review of literature, there are 4 factors, according to Hart and Risley, of students becoming proficient readers. And the first one I thought was so important was having their parents be their first teachers. And I'm not so sure that students out here always have a parent who is the first teacher. With technology today, it's putting something in front of them to keep them quiet, keep them busy. To have a high-quality preschool program, and I know that in the last couple of years, some students have been able to get in preschool due to the numbers. To have a great kindergarten program, and then to have high-quality instruction in the primary grades 1 through 3. And I feel like that we're getting there in those last 2, but obviously we can't control the first 2 factors at home and at preschool. So. And then I felt like this was very pertinent to us. Students who live in high poverty for at least 1 year of their life account for the 70% of students who do not graduate from high school in the grand scheme of things. It is. And then 86% of students living in poverty leave third grade not reading on grade level. So it's really scary for the society and the community that we live in for these students. Because again, we have 74% of our students who are on free and reduced lunch. So that's a pretty high account of our numbers. So there are 6 recommendations according to Duke and Block that will help prevent reading difficulties, and I really thought some of these were interesting. All-day kindergarten, which we're really lucky to have, phonics and phonological awareness, which I think we do a really good job down in primary with that. But when I was reading about this vocabulary instruction, I feel like we all teach vocabulary, but is it intentional vocabulary? And do you go back 2 weeks later and review that vocabulary? I feel like when we're reading a story, we may do, these are the vocabulary words, but do they use them in context? Do they use them in sentences? Do they know how to speak with them? And that to me is huge. Even in kindergarten, they don't have to write it, but can they use the word in a sentence? Reading comprehension was another thing. Are we teaching students how to comprehend the text? I know we teach them how to read it. You teach them how to decode. We teach them how to break the words apart. But are we teaching them how to comprehend the text? I thought that one was another one. And then science and social studies daily. And we all know that when something has to go, it's usually science or social studies. But according to this study that Duke and Block did, that was a major component into those being able to prevent reading difficulties. And it did specify not in reading instruction, its own 20-minute block of time. It said it could be as little as 10 to 15 minutes, however much time you had. But you should have set aside an amount of time for science and social studies. And then the last one was reading outside the school day. And again, we can't always control that. But if they read their clubs, if they read, I know we used to have daycare, if they read at daycare, but again, we can't control what they do at home. So I thought these were really great recommendations. And if you started in kindergarten and were very specific and continuous, you could probably have some good results with that. The RTI process has 3 tiers. All students are given the same universal screener. Tier 1 is classroom instruction. Tier 2 is small group in addition to the classroom instruction, not just small group. And then Tier 3 is individualized intense instruction that happens daily for an extended period of time. This instruction in this tier should be very intentional. This article indicated that students should be moving constantly. In the Tier 2, if they were progressing, you move them on. If they were regressing, you always are continually grouping them where they need to be, not just, oh, well, you're still in this group, let's read a book on this level, that kind of thing. So that is RTI, obviously, for the same for everybody. It also said over there that only 5% of students should be in Tier 3. Reading recovery. I think that's our Tier 3 reading here is just reading recovery. But I know we have lots of 2nd and 3rd graders in that Tier 2 right now. Okay, so upon filling out this 5 whys sheet, it was quite interesting to try to get to the root cause of why we were having this issue. The problem was they were coming, they were leaving not reading on grade level. So then I was trying to figure out why this was happening. So I feel like at this point, some teachers in kindergarten and 1st grade, they can't just start teaching. They have to teach classroom management, how to sit in your seat, how to crisscross applesauce, how to hold a pencil. And when you have to teach that for 4 to 6 weeks before you can get into good stuff, I feel like that's delaying our learning. And then because of that, students are coming to school lacking the basic skills. So why is that happening? Well, parents, guardians are not sending students to preschool or daycare. And again, technology, I think, comes into play there. Here's a phone, here's an iPad. And so why are they not? Well, we have a lot of grandparents raising grandkids. I spoke to Miss Clay, and she said at the beginning of the year we had about 10% of grandparents raising grandkids here. And then our preschool kids have to ride the bus for a really long time, and some parents don't want their 4-year-olds on the bus for 45 minutes. And then why is that happening? Parents are having kids at younger ages, and we have parents who are troubled, who don't always make good choices, which goes back to grandparents trying to help raise the kids. So I feel like the identified root cause of this is they're not coming to kindergarten ready to learn and ready for instruction. I feel like they're coming to learn, but it's how to sit down, how to hold a pencil. So the action plan was to implement the RISE groups with second and third grade. Students will rotate among the 4 teachers 4 days a week for an hour. And then at the end of the 6 to 8 weeks, we will administer the F&P and MAP to map the growth. And then this is very similar. I know that's very small to read. I had to identify 3 major causes on this one, and they were management, teachers, and demographics. So I can explain that. Again, the management is students not coming prepared to learn and spending that time teaching basic skills. The teachers is not anything to do with the teachers teaching. We've had so much turnaround in primary grades that we've not had stability for those kids to see that growth. And then the ones we got had little to no experience, so it's like we're starting from scratch, and they're learning almost as the kids are learning. So I felt like that does have a little bit to do. And then the demographics aspect was that the grandparents raising grandkids and the technology and little interaction with each other. Some kids who can't have that conversation with you because no one talks to them one-on-one. So I sent a survey out to the staff here. About 6 people from Bourbon Central filled it out, and 2 or 3 maybe from Cambridge filled it out. And the first part of it focused on communication. So what kind of communication is between the classroom teacher and the interventionist? Because I feel like that if the classroom teacher isn't communicating with the RTI people, then there's not going to get any kind of progress. But 40% answered that it was good, and also 40% answered that it was great. So I felt really good about that. 20% said average, so there was no negative there, so I felt like that was pretty good. And again, this was between 3 schools, so I felt that was pretty good. And then who communicates with the parents? That was the next thing. Who are in the intervention setting? So 73% said both teachers communicate, the intervention teacher and the classroom teacher, which I thought was super good also. And 26% said only the classroom teacher, but 0 said no, there was no communication. So again, there's some positive there as well. And then the last question was, how often do you communicate? And 53% said monthly, on once a month. 33% said weekly, and then there was a very small percentage said daily and 2 or 3 times a week. From being on the outside looking in, I feel like this is probably the communication between the parents, what we can improve on the most. A little more than monthly, maybe every 2 weeks, depending on the child and if they are or not making progress. And so the next set of questions were about reading after school hours. So how often do your students read at home or after school? 3 or 4 nights was 60%, so that made me feel really good. Absolutely. And then 13% said never, and then 26% said 1 to 2 nights a week. But that's still really good if they're reading 1 to 2 nights a week. Where are they reading? Was the next one. And 46% read at home, 6% read at daycare or child care, and 40% read at clubs after school. I know that 100% of our students read after school, but again, this was 3 schools. But I still thought, now, there was a small percentage here that said my students do not read after school hours. But again, we don't live in a perfect world. So research did say that was one of the 6 components to prevent reading difficulties was reading after school hours. So I thought that was pretty good. Oftentimes students can do really well in the intervention setting, but then they go back to the classroom and they still struggle in the classroom. So the question was, is there evidence of students using strategies they learned in the intervention setting in the classroom? And 80% said sometimes. 20% said always, and 0% said never. So I feel like they're trying to get them in there. It's just some are probably better than others doing that. And then the last slide about the survey was talking about the skills. What skills do they excel in the regular classroom setting? And 80% excelled in letter ID. This was sent, and actually I sent this to some K all the way through 5th grade teachers. But 12 people chose letter identification. And I believe they could check more than one of those though on that one. But there was humps and chunks, comprehension, letter ID, fluency, and writing. And then they struggle the most in writing, which doesn't surprise me because if they struggle to read, they're going to struggle to write. And it is harder in a group of 20 to try to, when there's noise, to try to get thoughts in or on paper versus a group of 2 or 3 students who can talk out loud, sound out the words, break them apart. So I wasn't really too surprised on the students struggling in the writing. All right.
Sam and Ava Warner to the office.
So the action plan, once again, was to students in 2nd and 3rd grades reading below grade level will be placed into groups. The RISE groups were created and implemented. It is a program based off Jan Richardson's guided reading series. For 1 hour, 4 days a week, students will rotate through 4 teacher centers and get guided reading, guided writing, fluency, and word work. And then at the end of 6 to 8 weeks, they will take the MAP test and we administered the F&P reading test for growth. Now, we haven't administered the F&P test yet, but we have administered the MAP test. So, my favorite thing about this is that those students were getting an actual person for an hour versus a computer screen or a piece of paper. They were getting interaction with a person. That's huge.
Staying engaged.
Yes, huge. Okay, so every child in 2nd and 3rd grade grew from fall to winter. All right. 47% of students grew 1 grade level. So that, and what I did was, according to that map sheet, if they were on the 1st grade level, then they grew a whole grade level to the 2nd grade level. 20% grew a grade level and a half, so not quite 2 grade levels. 27% grew 2 grade levels, and then 6% grew 2.5 grade levels. I know. Now that's this is 2nd and 3rd grade combined. So 2nd grade students, no student is reading on the end of 2nd grade level according to MAP. However, 33% are reading on the beginning of 2nd grade, and then 67% are reading on 1st grade. However, a majority of that 67% started in kindergarten. So they did grow. We just didn't grow to grade level.
These are just the RISE group kids, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, just the kids in those 2
Okay.
groups. Yes, ma'am. And then 3rd grade students, 50% are reading on 3rd grade level, and 50% are on 2nd grade level. 67% of 3rd grade students made 2 years gain on the MAP score, and then 33% made 8 years gain. So I was pretty pleased with those broken down. So I didn't look any names, so I just named an A, B, C, D. This was 2nd grade. The blue was the fall score, the red was the winter, and the yellow is the spring. And this student, I don't believe, was here in the fall, so he just took the winter and the spring. That was all the data that we had on him. And then it kind of shows who grew and how many years. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them started at kindergarten. So that's 7 of the 9. So they're all on 1st grade, so they all grew. It really was. It really was. I also talked to Miss Adams here, and she said a few of those kids had kind of plateaued they had kind of stopped making progress a little bit. But I still think everybody grew almost a whole year. Even though we're behind, we're still growing. So, and in the third grade students, there was one that started on a kindergarten level, and now she's on beginning of second grade level. And pretty excited about that. And then the rest of them all started on first grade, and that last friend is on, like, she's on point where she should be. Pretty excited about that one. So, yes. And again, fall, winter, spring to be able to show. And there is fluctuation. It's real life here when, like, this student scored a little bit higher in the winter than he did in the spring. But it's real life. And then this one, these progressed very nicely from fall to winter to spring. So I was pretty pleased. All right, so in conclusion, the process of becoming a proficient reader begins at home, with parents being the first teacher. Students need a strong foundation from preschool to third grade in order to become successful readers. All components of literacy should be taught daily. Students need individualized instruction on their reading level. And that went back to that article about how it doesn't matter if you start them in this grade. If they're excelling, they need to be pulled out and go into a different grade. Things need to be changing, which means teachers have to be flexible. Everything may not be the exact same every week. And then students can be taught skills in the small group intervention, but often fail to apply in the regular classroom setting. And I still see that with a few of my third graders. They can do it with Miss Adams, but when they come back, they do struggle. Strong communication is key between teachers, parents, to help students be more successful. The students group should be flexible as they grow and change. Students progress at different times and levels. No two students are alike. And as teachers, we cannot control what happens outside the school building and students' lives. We just have to do what we can while they are here. That's one of those that sometimes is hard to deal with. So, and that's my review. Do you all have any questions, comments, thoughts?
Would you be willing to share this at PNC?
Sure.
With the other teachers in kindergarten through second grade?
Sure, absolutely.
To show them, we haven't gotten the results from other groups that are going on, that
Right.
would be awesome to
Absolutely.
motivate about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we could implement something for next year. Sure.
And I think for some of those, keeping them busy is huge. Like where they're rotating and not getting in trouble or not just wasting
Behavior.
time. Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, I know in first grade, they are excited about it, they
Yeah.
love.
Getting to
It
rotate.
is.
Yes, I think being one-on-one is huge versus, because we often just say, go get on Excel or go get on this, but when they can have a conversation, read out loud, I think that makes the biggest difference.
And they know we talk because they'll say, that's the word that Miss Austin made us do today. And I'm like, yes, we know, that's why you're doing it. So they know. They're like,
Yes, and one of my students today was making sure he spelled the word because correctly.
Yes, I
Awesome.
know that.
because I gave them cookies the other day.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you were talking about how it begins at home, and a lot of the kids get, a screen in front of them, they get spoken to, and I think that's a lot. I was just thinking about the kids who get speech services that we have in our groups. A third of those students that just in second and third grade, I know get speech services, so if they can't say the word and communicate, how are they going to write it? So.
Because the one second grader, I think that's what holds him back more than anything,
yeah.
is his speech.
Yeah, so I see that with the spelling.
Because he's very bright. It's just,
Oh, yeah.
when he writes, he
Right.
writes it like it sounds to him, and it's,
Doesn't
Kind
sound
of, yeah.
anything like it.
yeah,
And it
it's
all
the
in
speech.
that